least, I think, what a way to end the day with David Blaine and Ken Hertz. David, let's start with you. Looking forward to 2014, can you say what you might be doing in 2014, and also how your world has changed in recent times? We've just been hearing about Twitter, and that's been a revolution for your industry, hasn't it?
It's interesting that the creator of Twitter, one of the creators, was just here, because the last show that I did was so different than anything that I've done in so many years. And previously, when I would do television specials, you know, ABC would like that I would do live stunts, and the stunts, in a different day and age before social media, the stunts would get the reporters, it would get the press, it would get the radio stations, and everybody could show up and put this out on the news wires. I almost did nothing for this show. I did magic to Katy Perry, Kanye West. I mean, it's not doing nothing, but I mean, I did no publicity really, but on the show I did magic to some of the biggest Twitter names that exist. And what happened during the show, without a stunt and without almost any publicity, it started becoming the #1 trend on Twitter. It started to highlight, and Twitter started to build the audience. So it actually did better than any special I'd ever done, and the numbers that it did were phenomenal, and it was simply because of social media, mostly Twitter.
So does that start to affect how you plan your future shows? Do you start to think about it differently because you're in a new world?
Well, now I just have to. What I try to do is I try to engage, and it's difficult for me because it's something that I've never really done before. But I'm trying to engage more with the audience through social media, and it's so incredible that you have access to everybody and anybody. It's a direct line of fire to almost everybody in the world, which is, previously there was no way to do that.
Can you represent not just David, but a lot of very well-known artists? How do you see the...
David's not supposed to know that.
Trend? How do you see the trends in the industry moving?
Well, I mean, I think, David, and I think, Biz really put his finger on it as well. It's like, we've gone from a world where it's 6 degrees of separation to a world where it's more like 3 or 4 degrees of separation. From an exponential standpoint, that's a dramatic change. That's not just a big change. And, David didn't plan on accessing these, the celebrities' social graphs. Did I lose my...
Yes, is the mic working? We could...
Can you hear me? Oh, there we are.
Yeah.
I don't think David, planned. He's not his own marketer. He didn't plan on accessing their social graphs.
I think we're going to let's give you a handheld mics to make sure that
as a social stuff it doesn't work. I'm sorry. I don't think David planned as a marketing strategy to access these celebrities' social graphs. And the people that he worked with on this special, it was extraordinary. I mean, it was everyone from Woody Allen to Woody Harrelson, from Will Smith to Harrison Ford. It was an extraordinary, and George Bush and Bill Gates. It's extraordinary. So it certainly was going to be something that was interesting no matter what. But as David said, it blew the ratings away. We're seeing the same kinds of things. Will.i.am did a special on ABC for the U.S. first robotics competition, right? Which is not, he did it as a time buy. He actually bought the time and sold it. But what he did to promote the show, because ABC wasn't promoting the show because it was a time buy, what Will did was he sent SMS messages, and Twitter messages to Lady Gaga, to Oprah Winfrey, to Ellen DeGeneres, to people that he knew had a big social graph. And he said things to them like, he sent, a message to Ellen saying, you're pretty smart, but wait till you see the kids on my TV special. And then she would tweet him back. And in that context, he got something on the order of 300 million impressions in a 2-day period leading up to the show. And the show ended up doing extraordinarily well for a show that had no promotion and no marketing budget and no advertising. And it was a TV special around a kid's robotics competition. It wasn't likely to do all that well, and it did extraordinarily well.
What does all this do for the sort of business model of these things and for the relationships between the various players in this industry? I mean, the types of negotiations that you are having presumably change as a result of
well,
this.
everything changes, and I can answer that rather briefly. Everything changes because most of the negotiation is about marketing. It's always about marketing. In other words, a recording artist makes a deal with a record company not because they expect to make a lot of money off of record sales, but because the record company promoting the record and making almost all the money on the record sales allows the artist to get enough awareness and a hit song on the radio so that they can sell tickets and T-shirts. That's always been the deal. When that capability becomes democratized in the way that David's describing, that changes the nature of every negotiation. So to the extent that every negotiation is about marketing on some level, if marketing becomes democratized in the way that it has in this manner, then it changes the nature of every negotiation. And go ahead.
I just wanted to come back to the question I put but didn't put well enough at the beginning. Your plans for 2014, what do you expect to be doing next year?
No, I simply want to do a small tour. And once again, it's going to be a different path. I'm not going to do it with anything extra. It'll be very small and simple. And the way that people are going to find out about it is just I'm going to tweet where I'm going. So you don't need the marketing. You don't need, and it'll feel like it was discovered. So, instead of most of the big name magicians that that they're all parked pretty much in one place in Las Vegas, but I want to just travel across the country with a very small and fun magic show. So that's the goal, and promote it using social media and nothing else.
Could I invite you to do any...
Do you guys want to try something all together?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I want you to do. And I imagine you can all do this at home. So everybody think of something that you like to eat for dessert, but not something you'd have at home like ice cream, something you might order at a restaurant like tiramisu. Don't say it, just think of it. You all have it? Take the very last letter of your dessert food. With that letter, can you think of a US president whose last name begins with that letter? I think Nixon, Lincoln, Reagan, Jefferson, Washington, Eisenhower, McKinley, Adams. You guys, you have something there? Okay. The people that do have a US president, take the second letter of the president's last name. With that letter, can you think of a color that begins with that letter? Well, I know that you're not going to do something obvious like orange. I know that you'll go for something a little more difficult. I'm getting the color, the majority in the room is indigo.
By the sound of it, that was pretty good. Can we have a show of hands of who had indigo?
Yeah, it should be about 60%. Yeah, oh, it's more. Wow. It's more like 80%. That's pretty crazy.
Who would like to ask a question? Who has a, not how that trick was done, but any questions? Yeah.
Yes.
Why don't you shout? Yeah.
Artists, thank you, that are making a lot of money off of radio play and because they have the marketing of the studios behind them. But these two are now coexisting and collaborating, like Bon Iver is collaborating with Kanye. He's also collaborated with one of my friends that is an independent recording artist. So they're collaborating, but they're still existing in these two different worlds. So do you think that in 2014 there will be a market that'll create a space where the two can meet?
Well, I don't think... The problem is that, you know, succeeding in entertainment is like succeeding in politics, right? In other words, what are the odds that a kid, you know, sitting in a classroom in Toledo is going to become, you know, a major public figure, a major whatever? In sheer numbers, it's kind of like, really, when you break it down and you analyze the statistics, which we don't do very well in this country. You know, we kind of analyze the lottery by talking to the lottery winners instead of talking to the lottery players, because the lottery players are kind of uninteresting, right? You know, and it's really easy to understand the prize, but it's not easy to understand the odds, because we don't teach kids statistics and we don't teach kids critical thinking. And so people grow up in this country thinking that you can evaluate what it's like to play the lottery by interviewing the people that succeeded and won the lottery. You know, the truth of the matter is, and this is the dirty little secret of the entertainment business, is that nobody succeeds. And what I mean by that is that the people that we know about, the Will Smiths and the Ricky Martins and the Bonos of the world, you know, those are they're a rounding error when you look at the, I mean, there's 100 million bands, I'm making this up, there's 100 million bands on MySpace still. You know, I mean, I don't know how many of you have been to MySpace anytime recently, but everybody wants to be a rock star. Everybody wants to be a superstar something, you know, and I think that the challenge is that nobody ever actually makes a living, let alone becomes huge, if you're talking in, you know, in absolute numbers. There's plenty of superstars, there's plenty of rock stars. What I'm saying makes no sense, except that when you look at the number of people that try, the number of people that audition, I tell people to go out for American Idol if they want to be a star, because they only get 30,000 contestants, so 1 in 30,000 is pretty good odds, right? When you compare that to the number of people that put up a website and have a band, you know.
But not to disagree, but I do think that there is a certain amount of diligence. So I think that anybody can succeed. I don't think it's specific to luck. I think the people that I've met that are successful, they didn't really have a plan B. So it was like, I'm gonna keep doing this until it works. And I'm not gonna do this, I'm not gonna do this, and I'm not gonna be too distracted by all these other things. And I think that path, if you're diligent, you keep going and going and going, whereas most people won't put that into it, and you keep getting better and better and better. And therefore, I think, you know, I don't think it's limited. And I do think in this day and age where anybody has access, there's so many stations, there's so many televisions, there's so many, you know, different mediums to display your talents. I think anybody can put themselves out there, and if it's good enough, people will find it. And if they believe in it and they're working on it, I think, you know, I believe anybody can succeed in it.
I think that is tautological. I agree with you. I think that's tautological, though, because anyone can succeed, right? If by some series of events you can chart someone's success from where they started to where they finished, anyone can succeed, right? We know that, right? Because of the humble backgrounds of so many of the popular figures in popular culture. But that doesn't mean they should. In other words, that doesn't mean they should try. That doesn't mean that as a choice to have unlimited confidence in your success. I got news for you. The only people who succeed, in my experience, at that level, are the people who had unlimited confidence in their own ability to succeed, which means everyone who failed or got close and failed also had unlimited confidence in their ability to succeed, and they turned out to be wrong. and so the problem really, you know, I used to say to people all the time, as I finally got to the point where the clients were younger than my own children, and the parents of the clients were younger than me, that I was the luckiest guy in the world because my kids had no talent, you know, because they would have an enormous amount of access because they're my kids or because they're your kids or what have you. They would have a better shot.
Do they agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
They're actually very talented.
If you were, but that raises the question that if you were starting out today, would your path, do you think, be the same as it was? I mean, it's not all that long ago, but all these social media didn't exist.
I'd probably learn Mandarin.
But by the way, to the person's question, I do think that, you know, we do have this phenomenon of the kind of journeyman entertainer, that the success story that's only possible because of connectivity. You know, that Daft Punk is a huge success story in the U.S. as a French artist that never could have ever found an audience in the U.S. prior to the internet, because nobody would have invested in manufacturing product and putting it in record stores in the US and all of that. So there is a change. This global village is a change, but also the idea that anyone can actually go out and find an audience sufficient that they can travel, that they can perform, that they can get their content out there. But you know, at some point it stopped being okay in the entertainment business, at least, for someone to simply make a living, right? And that's that I do think is something that we are seeing more of in 2014, is more people able to cobble together a living because of connectivity, because of the democratization of distribution, because of the democratization of marketing that's come as a result of this connectivity.
We have a question at the front here. Yeah, the mic is swiftly on its way.
Very much related to that. Can you talk about the future of paying for content? Are people becoming more and more accustomed to pay 99 cents for a song or $3.99 for a download? Or do you see the future more and more content becoming free and artists making their living really primarily from live events?
Well, once again, I think it's a misconception to think that artists were ever the beneficiary of a more commercial, more restricted environment. The fact of the matter is that artists, you know, if Madonna made $10 million on record sales, I guarantee you she made $100 million touring. You know, the number of, in 1997, when the record industry was at its absolute peak, of the 32,000 commercial albums that were released that year, as I understand it, I think 75 of them or 200 of them sold more than 10,000 copies. No, artists gave their music away for free via the radio, via making a deal with a record company. That was always the bargain, right? Was that they gave their music away for free, somebody else figured out how to make money on them. I think the same is true now. In other words, Apple doesn't pay 1 penny to record music, but they sell a lot of hardware because of music. If you look at the statistics, Apple was worth $3.5 billion in 2001 when they released the iPod. In 2003, when iTunes was released, Apple was worth $3.5 billion. They've never looked back. It was iTunes that made iPod a success, not the other way around. And in fairness, Apple's success has been by using content to sell other stuff. That's the history of the record business. RCA started making record deals and started making records because nobody was buying their record players unless there was content to go with it. The content is how you sell the stuff. You know, try selling a car that doesn't come with some fabulous stereo, right? But nobody will pay extra. You know, very few people will pay extra to get a stereo in their car, right? Or, you know, you get 50 channels of commercial-free music with your cable subscription, but nobody's willing to pay extra to get those 50 channels. It's just a different world. I mean, we are entering a world where more people are listening to more music in more places than ever before. The music industry, if you define it by all the people that make money off of music, is way bigger than it ever was before. You've got venues and parking and, you know, and T-shirts and Coca-Cola, and it's extraordinary. Marketers climb over each other to get to the Grammys. It's by far the most entertaining show on television. I don't know if any of the artists make any money on the Grammys, but I can assure you that plenty of people pay a lot of money to market on it. The Grammy Foundation makes a lot of money on it, and CBS makes a lot of money on the Grammys. And they get the best music performance show ever, every year. But, you know, I think it's a mistake to say that people ever really paid for music. Music's always been free. You paid for quality, you paid for convenience, or you paid for something else, right? Nobody, you know, you could always get free music if you were willing to wait until your artist and that song came on the radio when you were ready to listen to it. You paid extra to be able to listen to it where you wanted, when you wanted, wherever you were. If you look at it from that perspective, we're still in that world.
David, can we persuade you to do one more?
It's tricky. Is there enough time?
Yes. Is there enough time?
We're the last,
yes.
David, we're the last act. You're the closer.
And do you want to just make sure the deck is okay? Look at it, examine it, make sure it's normal.
Yep.
Looks pretty good.
Looks good to me.
Let me eliminate a little group of cards. Take these. Just try to see one inside, but not this one. But just if you can get one. Do you have one?
Yep.
Okay, I just watched your eyes and you look down at your hand, which indicates something to me. It doesn't mean that that's your card necessarily, but it means that it's close to the card that you're thinking because you just focused. But that's just a tell. Here, take the whole deck. deal the cards face down slowly, one at a time. Slowly, yeah. One on top of the next. Or slow, go slow, feel each one. And stop whenever you want. Great. You thought of a card, you haven't said it at all, correct? Mm-hmm. I can peek at it. I believe this is your card. You don't have to say anything, just your reaction will tell me.
That's my card.
We'll do it again so you can follow it. I'll do it a little slower for you this time. I'll do it so you can almost learn it. So here, I'll give you this. Take anyone out that you like and choose one. 3 of spades. Mm-hmm. And you can let everybody see it. And do me a favor, put your initials on the face of the card.
Right there? Just
Yeah, that's good. So I'm going to show you an optical illusion, but I'll teach it to you as I do it. So you can all see the name. Yeah? You all see that? Now, see how it looks. Like it really looks, I don't know if you can see from there, but it really looks like the card goes into the middle. But it's an optical illusion. It's never going to move, so it's always here. Let me show it to you again. I don't know if you can see, but see here. So see how it really looks like I place it. You see how it looks like it goes inside? But it's an optical illusion, so it never moves. I'll do it again now that you know what I'm doing. So I'll leave it slightly sticking out. See, I don't know. See, you can see the name, your initials on the card. So watch close. It goes middle of the top, middle of the bottom. And it's not here yet. I mean, obviously, it's the 4 of clubs, not your card. But you'll see the initials appear right here. Can you see? Just like a flash, just like if I squeeze it. See how it immediately just appears like that? But here, you know what I'll do? Just so you can see it a little better. Here, I'll put a little bend in the card. You can all see that here. So we'll give it a little bend. See that little crimp in the card? Just like that. I don't know if you can, my hand's blocking it, but here. These go above if I hit. See how it just jumps.
Wow.
Take one out.
You can stop.
Yeah, you could have had any card, right?
Yep.
Look which one
Can
you
I
took.
look at it?
Yeah, and let them see.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Well, that is all we have time for, but I think that was a great way to finish up. Thank you very much, Ken and Blaine. Thanks, Ken.